I think that has to be the most chaotic Grammys that I've ever watched. It's just hard to put into words. I needed to make a video about this. Welcome to a mostly audio with some pics and clips sort of podcast about my thoughts on the Grammys. This is going to be way more informal than my video essays. I'm going to talk about who won, the Wild album announcements, and some general thoughts about what this means for this year in music and the cultural conversation. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the surprise album announcements of the night. The biggest elephant in the room is that four-time Album of the Year winner Taylor Swift announcing a 11th album, The Tortured Poets Department, which was teased with a black and white profile pic that most of us really thought was going to be for Reputation. Even her dress and hair reflected that, but you know what? We are just a bunch of clowns in a tent. If you've been a Swiftie for years, we have guessed wrong so many times. This album was announced after she won Best Pop Vocal Album for Midnights, which also won Album of the Year. Judging by the lyric fragment and aesthetic so far, this has to be some sort of companion or continuation of folklore, or at least alternative Taylor, I think, and I hope. But it'd be kind of insane if it was a return to her country roots, but who knows, it could be a synth pop record. We never know with Taylor, and I think that's what keeps her exciting. There's a bunch of theories, including a discovery that her ex had a group chat with Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott. It was called the Tortured Men's Club, which sounds pretty familiar. All I know at this moment is that we're all going to be seated for the album on April 19th, one day away from 420 if you celebrate, and I will have a video out on one of the most hallowed days of the year, if you celebrate, of course, and it's gonna be a good video. I swear. I cannot wait to dissect her songs. I'm excited about that. Honestly, I was more excited about the album announcement than her winning her fourth AOTY. Another winner tonight for Best Country Duo Performance, and a personal favorite of mine that I've never covered on my channel yet, Casey Musgraves announced her fifth record, untitled, but with a cool witchy nature aesthetic. Musgraves has been AWOL for the last 3 years, and I'm just very excited. I know Starcrossed was not everyone's cup of tea. It was a divorce album with a lean into pop that was met by apathy by her country fans, and even those who love Golden Hour didn't like it. I personally liked it. I do think that a fresh sound that she teased is going to tear. I want her to do a Stevie Nicks sort of era. Dua Lipa also had a pretty cool performance tonight where she teased Training Day and her newest record along with Houdini. I prefer Training Day to Houdini already, and I look forward to its release next week. SZA, who we will talk about later in the video, so she teased Saturn from her upcoming SOS sequel Lana in an ad for MasterCard, and I think it sounds magical. I was gagged. I cannot wait for that record, which I'm definitely covering when it drops. Okay, so let's talk the big four. Album of the Year, The Main Character Syndrome strikes again. While it wasn't my personal pick, I get why Taylor Swift won. Swift dominated the conversation in 2023. This marks her fourth Album of the Year win. It makes history. I really liked her speech at the end, how the creation process is always the best moment of her life when she's planning her music videos or like making a new song, writing a bridge. I felt like that was a really powerful moment. The contrast, though, of her winning 1989 compared to this win is really stark. You can really tell that she's a little bit over it, you know? She's happy, but I feel like the joy just wasn't as radiant as normal. I thought it was really sweet of her to bring Lana on stage. Taylor's just never going to retire, but can we talk about how wild it is that she has won this specific category 4 times, but not a single record or Song of the Year award? Like, come on. I know this was an extremely competitive year, but it is just very odd as a foresight to consistently give her this award when she hasn't won the other two. Song of the Year went to Billie Eilish for What Was I Made For, and it was a surprise even to Billie herself, who really seemed shocked, like her speech really felt made up on the spot. I was actively rooting for Kill Bill, but I do have to admit that the songwriting craft in this specific song is award-worthy. Billie really captured and created a thesis statement for one of the world's biggest hit movies last year. I do think that she is a Grammys darling. I think she'll continue to be one. Record of the Year went to Flowers by Miley Cyrus, which was an even bigger surprise for me. Miley had such a lovely speech and attitude about winning. She was just so unserious for mentioning that she didn't have underwear on. I was kind of scared of what she was going to take out of her bag. I feel like this won for its universality. I feel like this is one of last year's biggest hits. The storytelling, the real life inspiration, the narrative. Cyrus was overdue for an award. So her winning twice for Flowers did make sense. It was a feel-good moment and a smart pick. Best New Artist was my favorite pick of the night. Victoria Monet deservedly took it. Monet is one of my favorite songwriters. She has been running the pop game behind the scenes for almost 15 years, writing hits. So to see her celebrated for her own work, to see her dominate the R&B genre. Jaguar 2 was one of my favorite records of last year. Her metaphor of being a plant growing and sprouting above ground, it really speaks to how not overnight this industry can be. It really takes years to cultivate your talent, to find people who believe in you, and her to kind of, dispel this narrative that it just happens overnight for you it really spoke to me as someone who's older and still trying to go for my own aspirations. She won Best R&B Album and Best Engineered Album Non-Classic as well. Just excellence. I'm going to briefly talk about the performances. Dua Lipa opened with this pretty cool medley of her 2 new songs with Dance the Night as an interlude. I feel like she's really improved as a dancer and a performer. You really see that. I feel the aesthetic is a marked shift from future nostalgia. She looked gorgeous. Her stage presence was godly. It gave me chills. I'm still not the biggest fan on Houdini, but I respect her commitment to not abandoning the single. I feel like very few artists do that. Tracy Chapman joined Luke Combs to sing Fast Car, which I would have just had Chapman on stage. Seeing her on stage again was amazing. I felt like Combs' cover, it's a good cover, but it's not as good as the original. It never will be. SZA, she took the night for me. Her Snooze Kill Bill performance was brilliant. The level of vocal mastery that she has, the way that she lets her dancers do their thing. I felt like this was a tour-worthy performance that was a little too good for the Grammys. I was kind of shocked at the production value. I swear to God, her label and her really organized a good performance. Billie's performance of What Was I Made For was excellent. I anticipate her doing another stellar performance at the Oscars when she wins again. Her dress being a reference to an actual Barbie was a really clever touch. Miley gave one of my favorite performances of the night. It was utter camp. The ad-libs that she threw in there, telling the audience that she knows they know her song. She's really proving that she does not sing to track. She's got an absolute rocker personality, and the shift at the very end where she just goes for it and then she just leaves and then drops the mic. Wow. Olivia's vampire performance was solid. I feel like the instrumental really overpowered her at some point, and she does seem pitchy here and there. I think that nerves really got her, but it was sweet seeing Taylor Swift, who TikTok had decided was her arch nemesis for some reason, vibe to the track. I thought that was a cute moment. U2's advertisement for The Sphere was my bathroom break. I did not watch that. That was boring. I literally, no one's gonna go see that stupid thing. I did like the In Memoriam section. I felt like the highlight was really Fantasia's tribute to Tina Turner with Proud Mary. I felt like Fantasia was robbed in the Oscar noms. Joni Mitchell singing Both Sides Now was a brilliant little small intimate moment. I thought that it was okay. I thought it was sweet. I'm a fan of Joni to a degree, but I'm not really familiar with her. Travis Scott and Playboi Carti's performance hurt my eyes and probably gave Joni Mitchell a seizure, but they killed it. And it was nice to see Brandy get a moment in the Burna Boy's 21 Savage performance. But by the time we hit that point, I was already getting sleepy. The Grammys need to learn how to cut their show down a little bit. And finally, Billy Joel, I love you, I respect you, I think you are great, but this show should have gone out with Taylor Swift or someone else. I know Swift has an upcoming show in Japan and the Super Bowl to worry about, and she needs her rest, but her absence was felt. And now we're going to talk about the other winners. Boy Genius had a killer night, winning Best Rock Performance, Song, and Alternative Album. The record really proved that the supergroup was Grammy Gold. I'm not surprised at all. While they are going on hiatus, I do think that they've got to regroup sooner than later. Phoebe Bridgers-Love really carried into that Best Pop Duo Grammy that she shared with SZA. It shocked me that Bridgers had never won prior to this night, so a big congratulations to her. This is probably the section of the video that some of you really want to hear from me as a SZA fan. I'm glad that SZA won a solid amount. She won Progressive R&B Album, Snooze took Best R&B Song, Ghost in the Machine won Best Pop Duo. I felt like Kill Bill should have won one of the bigger categories, and I get why it didn't win, because the song is unconventional, it's violent, it contrasted to the more straightforward conventional songs. I know the older voters didn't go for it. I really was personally rooting for SZA to win more. I didn't have high hopes, though, considering how Beyonce was treated last year. And I'm not going to pit record against record, but I really loved SOS. I'm not going to crucify Taylor like some other people I see on Twitter. I see so many people trying to create a hate train on her. And right now, these awards are decided by people who tend to be predictable in regards to who they reward in the bigger categories. I feel like systemically, it is the fault of the Academy for, structurally representing a system that is not as diverse or progressive as it acts like it is. The Grammys are a flawed system because many of the voters aren't just artists, they're people within the industry, they are executives, there's age differences, there's generational gaps. We really cannot expect the Grammys to transform overnight. I feel like as time passes and as new artists join and older artists, come to pass and older members it's something that's always going to be like this. So I think it is counterproductive to take out your anger on who won. These awards don't really matter. You can continue to love your artist, and Grammys are just these industry baubles. To be fair, Diana Ross has never won a Grammy, and she probably will never win a Grammy. So, I don't know. Don't take it too seriously. In more positive news, Miley had won her first Grammy earlier that evening. She had been in the game for nearly 20 years, and it took her this long to be recognized. I liked Flowers quite a bit, but I've always felt like Plastic Hearts was the record that had way more Grammy-worthy hits on it, like Angels Like You. I get that many of you liked Endless Summer Vacation, and I think it was a solid record, but I always felt like Plastic Hearts was the stronger record, and it's proof that the label really does matter, because Columbia is a much better record label for her. RCA does nothing for its artist. If RCA has 1,000 enemies, I'm one of them. If RCA has 100 enemies, I'm one of them. If RCA has one enemy, it's me, and if RCA has 0 enemies, I'm dead. So Midnight's won Best Pop Vocal Album, which makes sense because, again, Swift had dominated the year's conversation. They weren't going to let her walk home without anything, and I do think that it's great that it marked her 13th win. My opinion of Midnight's has gone up and down throughout the era, but I think it's great that this was her 13th win and then her 14th win because it won AOTY. If you don't love it, you can just pretend in your brain that she won for Lover or Reputation, which I still think are better albums than Midnight's, but that's just me. Kylie Minogue won for Padam Padam, her second award, this time for Best Pop Dance Recording. Her last win was 20 years ago for Come Into My World. What an icon. 20 years in between wins. She is still in the game. She is still relevant. Best Dance Album went to Actual Life 3 by Fred Again, which I have spun myself a couple of times, so it was pretty cool for me to be like, oh my god, I know who won. So this brings us to the strikeouts. This entire section has no shade. I love every single artist in this section, but I just wanted to point out who I felt was absent in the winner's circle. Olivia Rodrigo struck out the entire evening, which honestly I feel is part of the course for a sophomore record. Billie herself struck out for Happier Than Ever, and I thought that album was infinitely better than her first album, which is a shame because Guts was a lovely record. Troye Sivan lost both of his nominations, which was a bit of a bummer. He lost music video to the Beatles, who are dead, and to Kylie and Dance, but we'll see him again, and he'll hopefully win, and he was up against legends, so... Another heartbreaking big strikeout for me was Lana Del Rey, whose Ocean Boulevard was my top album of last year, but Lana's gonna get nominated again, likely for her upcoming country record Lasso, which she announced recently. The last strikeout that I was pretty shocked by was Ice Spice, who at one point was the favorite for Best New Artist. And now this is the section where I kind of talk about assorted thoughts that I had throughout the night. I just wanted to call out Karol G for winning Best Musica Urbana Album. Just a well-deserved win. I think she's amazing and she's gorgeous. And we need to call out Tyla, who won her first ever award, a Grammy, no less, for Water, which was one of my favorite tracks last year. Best African music performance indeed. Water is just such a smash hit. I'm so happy that she's getting recognition for it, and just wow. Earlier today, on a tragic but kind of funny karmic note, Nicki Minaj falsely won Best Rap Song due to an error on Twitter. I think they queued the wrong tweet, so someone's intern's definitely gonna get fired. Some are calling it karma for the recent behavior, the recent feud. Kind of hilarious. Jay-Z had this really insane speech because he won some sort of like legacy award for fundraising or whatever. I really was not paying attention because it's one of those awards that they just invent to give out. But anyway, his speech was insane. He just came for the Grammys. He was shading them for denying Beyonce Album of the Year. You know, like he was like, she was the most awarded artist ever, but she's never won Album of the Year ever. And he kind of spoke to what I spoke to earlier about like the systemic sort of organization that the Academy is, and like how they pretend to be progressive, but they really are not. They're not like as advanced. Like there are barriers that artists of color have to cross that no one else has to cross. And I'm not trying to make this like a preachy thing or whatever, but this applies in just about every industry, you know. You talk to a person of color in business, you talk to a person of color trying to make it in the film industry, you know, you hear stories of like hoops that they have to jump, ladders that they have to build, not only for themselves, but for future generations. And I felt like for the first time, Jay-Z kind of made sense, but his daughter was so like, you know, Blue Ivy was like so stressed out. She was like, oh God, what is he gonna say? All in all, I do think that this was one of the better Grammys. I felt like there was no overt robberies per se. I feel like there were some controversial moments here and there, but for the most part, the spoils were divided pretty evenly amongst like the expected winners. It was a pretty safe night for the most part. I have to say it was just pretty chaotic in terms of like what people did and what people said. It's a very sharp contrast to the Grammys 4 years ago when Billie swept. No one really swept this year. And that's a wrap. That was just 16-ish minutes of me rambling, you know? Like, I could do a podcast if I had, like, guests. Would you guys, like, watch me do a podcast? I feel like I would be pretty good on a podcast. But yeah, this is me when I do not have a script, when I'm just saying things. I tend to be a pretty succinct person. Like, I still have like a format and a structure in my brain of what I want to talk about and just generalized thoughts. These were pretty much notes that I took. So thank you so much for tuning into this video. This is like more of an experimental drop. I'm not expecting this to do numbers or to have an outreach. This is just for you guys, the ones who watch me ride or die. I'm so grateful to you. A quick shout out to my members and my subscribers. I have a proper video for you guys out on Thursday. So I will see you then for that video. And who knows, maybe I'll do another one of these for something else. But thank you guys so much. Maybe I'll do this for the Oscars. Maybe.